Welcome to the Digital Couch, a podcast about the ever changing world of digital. The Digital Couch is brought to you by Value First. The podcast features leading global thinkers and their stories from the world of business, management, and marketing. Now, here's your host, Shauri Gupta.
Hello everyone. Today we have with us Manish Joshi. Manish is a part of the business planning team at Nike Amsterdam. Manish, why don't you say hi to our listeners?
Hi everyone. I hope everyone is safe and sound in these unprecedented time. Clearly not the ideal time to be in, I would say, any kind of consumer facing business, but yeah, I'm sure we'll get it through. This shall pass through. So okay, yeah, first of all, I'm thank you Shari for inviting me over. I'm really looking forward to for this podcast because it's one way to learn more from what is happening on the tech side. Like I'll be able to learn from you, and then I can experience that what I am seeing from the perspective of the business planning role and overall till the time I have worked before Nike as well. So how I feel this pandemic will change the world. Yeah, really looking forward. Yeah.
Perfect. So in fact, I mean, as you pointed, it's pretty interesting. I mean, we work in very different industries, but yet there are multiple ways our industries have come together, such as retail and tech. Like there's so many products and projects that they work on. So anyway, let's get into it. Shall we? I mean, I don't mean to be typical, but shall we start with the most obvious question of 2020? How are you dealing with the pandemic out there? Like, what's been up? How's life changed? Just give us a quick one about it.
Yeah, so there is no nice way to say that how exactly I'm dealing with 2020 because 2020 has been a year of roller coaster, I would say. So currently on personal note, I will start. So it has not been the most easy year for me, I would say, because so I live alone in Amsterdam, and then during this time, so living alone has its own perk. But if you in this during, so it's been almost what 70 days that I'm living on my own inside my uh, inside my inside my house. So like it sometime it gets onto your head, but then now I have made a routine out of it, so now it is not that difficult. And then the good part is like I have a lot of time for myself, so I can the workouts I usually used to miss because of the work. Now I'm able to make sure that I'm disciplined on that front. So there are silver linings as well. So when it comes to the business part, okay, so like we all are living through the time of uncertainty. So
Yeah.
as a brand, as Nike as a brand is also it's the consumer facing brand, and then we are also analyzing the risks and opportunities at what exactly this pandemic means to us. So it's quite a lot of work, but then I'm sure like any other global brand, we all are working together and facing this as a team. So yes, so that is usually my pandemic routine in 2020.
Okay, that's cool. So, what's the hardest part? Is it the video calls or is it cooking between the work calls? I mean, personally, for me, it's the video calls. I mean, the first 5 minutes, we're just saying, "Hi, can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me?" And it's just the 5 minutes gone by.
Yeah. So I would say yeah, the hardest part would be the video calls because there is a it's always good now because of the whole technology integration and the communication that we are able to communicate flawlessly with our colleagues. But then sometimes you have this thing called screen fatigue. So like
Yeah.
after like 5 hours of video want to and then the other problem is for the recreation as well, like so you want to distract your mind from the work, then you move to another screen which is like a Netflix or a Prime or any of these OTT platforms.
Yeah.
And then I have the clearly lot of screen time is happening for me, and then yeah, that is the biggest challenge I feel.
Got it. But also, I mean, on a positive side, I feel what companies would have taken 20 years to digitally transform, coronavirus has done it in 2 months. Like how we've just transformed digitally, all of us together.
Yeah, I totally completely agree with you because the way we always, as a brand, as a company, wherever you will be working right now, you always had those reservation in terms of what will the work I'm doing right now, will I be able to do it remotely as well? There was always an apprehension, no, you can't, because come on, you need some form of human interaction where you need to attend those meetings or not. But this is like a compulsive digital transformation which has happened. It's not just a matter of doing getting things done frictionless. It's a matter of the sustenance and survival as well for the brands, for any company. So I agree with you completely on that. It's a 20-year of digital transformation done in 2 months.
Yeah. I mean, indeed, this is the new way of living, and I think we should embrace it as soon as we can. On a
Yes.
note that things get better for all of us. I mean, let's stick to the retail industry. I mean, I actually want to
Okay.
understand what's in store according to you. I mean, things are getting better, but not perfect yet. But what is it? What is in store for the small retail players for the coming months and the coming year?
Yeah. So, okay, I would be very honest, and I would be using very one of the most cliche term in past 2 3 months, which is the new normal.
Yeah.
So, then I would just use that term and would say that so the new normal will be coming, and we are not sure how exactly that new normal will look like. So that uncertainty will always be there, and especially for the smaller. So a lot of people take considering this like, okay, there will be a for sure recession which is already underway, and then how exactly the recovery will look like,
Right.
and what all industries will be. So there will be a rationalization in the businesses which will happen because of this current downturn of economic activities. So this rationalization, people are saying the Darwin law of business might happen, that the survival of the fittest. But I feel it is not just that, because so in earlier recession the reason were different, and then it was mostly driven by the financial industry, and there was a lot of post that recession there were a lot of safeguard that were in place by the central banking agencies, though, so that something of that sort will not happen again. But this is something else. This is something that everyone is staying inside, and there is a fear on life. So it has much more personal toll than just the financial toll. So we will have to deal with it in a different way. So for the smaller businesses, like you rightly mentioned, so they have smaller runway usually when it comes to the cash flow for this, and then they never. So if I have like two small stores anywhere, maybe in Amsterdam or maybe in Delhi or maybe in London, then I don't usually have a runway to keep my business sustained for 6 months without the business. As a small business holder, I usually don't think that way, because whatever profits I make, I would like to reinvest into my business to expand it,
Sure.
to make it bigger.
Yeah.
So that is the one big problem that the smaller businesses are facing right now, that they have a very small runway in terms of cash. So, and then the second part comes. So like for me, whatever I have worked in the past, I have seen there is a problem of the thought process, the way these businesses think. So for them, embracing the technology is always the plan for next year. And then all of a sudden they realize that next year is next week now. So
Yeah.
that is a very big problem a lot of businesses are facing, because a lot of these businesses still don't have their e-commerce operations running, because they thought that they will never need it, because they are usually their customers are like 2 blocks away or 3 blocks away or within 20 kilometers of the radius.
Right.
So for them, they don't need that e-commerce, or they don't need to interact with their consumer, because they know their consumer by face. But all of a sudden they realize their consumer can't visit them, and there will be a very long duration after this also, that the consumer will be apprehensive in visiting these stores. So how they can still be in touch with that consumer, even if their consumer wants to support them, but they can't. So that is where the change will happen for the smaller businesses. Then they need to embrace the technology, they need to embrace it fast, because
Yeah.
like I said, the people who will not be able to embrace it, they might not survive this. That is one thing. The biggest challenge I feel that they might face is the cash. So the cash is very the cash crunch will be there, and then in this cash crunch you have to prioritize whatever cash you have where you want to invest it. So I feel that they need to highlight in terms of the technology integration that what are their top 3 priorities, and then invest cash in that. So SaaS companies like software as services would be very big. I would say I would say a big business growing after this,
Right.
because these companies will have you can these companies give you an opportunity to pay them monthly, and you don't have to invest too much, as if there is a very less fixed cost involved in terms of getting the enterprise software set up in your systems.
Of course.
So that would be a very big thing. Like you must have recently seen Shopify is one. Their valuation is going bonkers. Like they are 120 billion right now, and then yeah. So not clearly not every company is negatively affected in this pandemic, but then yeah, you have to find your risk and opportunities at the right places.
Oh, very interesting. In fact, I mean, before I start jumping towards the point of companies and smaller players, especially embracing technology, what do you think has become the biggest pain point when we start talking about, say, a typical consumer journey? And this could be, say, specifically to your sector.
Yeah, so I would be I have been working in fashion retail for quite some time, and then I feel that the biggest pain point is they I worked in both online as well as offline side of the business, irrespective of the fact that the both are the same industry. That again, if you are selling garments to everyone either offline or online, you're selling the same merchandise, but the problems are quite different for an online consumer and for an offline consumer. Like
True,
how
yeah.
many times you must have gone to a store and then you feel frustrated that you really like something and then you're not able to find the size. So yeah, so that is very big problem for an offline retailer, because they have limited shelf space, the limited amount of merchandise that they can keep in the store, and
Right.
then they usually there is that's a very big problem that you are not able to find the right product, right size. So
Yeah.
that creates a very big pain point for the consumer, and then that is where the online is usually has the upper hand, because they have unlimited shelf space. They can keep how much how many more assortment they want to keep, and then it becomes this is the plus point for the online. But then online is suffering with their own issues, the look and feel, that how to do that. Like you can't touch a garment, and then there are few, especially for the premium product, people want to experience the merchandise before buying it, because if you're buying for like a 200 euro shirt, then you want to wear it first, or you want to make sure that you
It
want
feels
to
nice.
feel the fabric, those
Right.
kind of things. So that is what the biggest pain point for an online retailer when it comes to the consumer journey. But then I guess a lot of companies are working in terms of technology will be a very big leveler in this. A lot of brands are working to bridge that gap,
Fair. In fact,
best
I
of
mean,
online and offline. Yeah.
as you just said, I mean, technology could be that bridger, I mean, in between right there. And in fact, like from the chatter I hear around, and from what in fact my company Value First has been doing, chatbots have started adding so much value to businesses across the world, especially specifically retail as well. And this indeed has now become one of the most equipped and most easy to implement tools of the so-called artificial intelligent world. What's your take on this?
Yeah. Personally, I feel that chatbots are amazing. And then, so initially, I will be very honest with you. When I couple of years back, when the chatbot was something which was like a really new thing, and then they were just starting off, and then I used to experience for a couple of, not with the when I was surfing the Indian websites, but if you are going through a couple of international websites, you will see the chatbots popping up, and in the beginning, the response used to be like, it you knew that it is a chatbot, because
Right.
whatever you will write, there will be a common response coming. And then I was like, okay, is it scalable? Is it something? Will it actually solve the customer problem? But then now when I use it, I'll be very honest with you. Like sometimes I don't even realize if it is a chatbot or a real person on the other side.
Yeah.
So I personally feel in retail, the customer experience is the biggest differentiator when it comes to from going from one retailer to another.
Yeah.
And chatbot and right, like I previously mentioned, that technology would be a very great bridge in elevating that consumer experience. And chatbot would be one of those tools which can help a lot of offline as well as online retailers to make sure that the consumer experience that they are looking at is maintained on their portals. So I when we say the consumer experience, the biggest three things I in my mind is like uniformity of experience. So as a consumer, if I am going to your website and if I am seeking something, then I should have the same experience or even better experience when I come the next time. So that uniformity of experience is very important. And the second thing is that how exactly that chatbot or whatever tools you are using to elevate the consumer experience, how exactly you have integrated the backend with the AI to make the improvement, because this improvement cannot be a manual driven process.
Yeah.
The tools needs to learn on their own and then they need to improve. So that is very important. And then I feel the cost optimization bit, that usually when you are keeping the chat box, then there is always a thing like, so whatever I feel the motivation always by the end, that you want to increase your profit. And then increasing the
Right.
profit usually have two levers: either you increase the prices or you reduce the cost. So cost optimization is very important factor here, that is it saving some cost in long term or a mid term for you. Like maybe you will be able to reduce your customer care team, or maybe you will be able to reallocate the people who are in the customer care to some function where you can utilize them better. So those kind of things that you need to ask a question. But chatbots, I feel, are here to stay. And then we might see a different avatar of chatbots over a period of time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm completely with you on this. In fact, as I was mentioning, that the demand's been incredible the last few months specifically, and with what's happened recently, it's spiked to even newer heights. Do you also want to quickly add about how's Nike using chatbots? Maybe, I mean, for example, I know that for a fact there's something really cool that you guys are running on the Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, so to be honest, like there is a separate team who handle that. But then, yeah, Nike has traditionally used chatbots in quite efficient way. Like even when, like a couple of months back, Elliot Kipchoge smashed the 2 hour barrier for full marathon, which was an amazing event, and I was really excited for that.
Right.
So, but then, yeah, on that, but then there was a lot of, I would say, vibe across the consumers around this event, and Nike tried to connect with the consumer real time using chatbots
Oh, wow.
around this event, so where you can just interact with the chatbots, and chatbot will be able to share the live feed also from the event. The other thing is like, you rightly mentioned on the Facebook Messenger, that you can interact if you search on the Facebook Messenger of the Nike page, and then if you go there, then you can actually interact with them. That it uses GIFs, it supports your query, and it actually interacts with you in more in rather than just a manner where we are happy to receive your message kind of thing, but then much more than that. So yeah,
Okay,
that
that's
is there.
pretty interesting. I mean, one more thing I wanted to actually understand. I mean, it's more of a personal question that I'm trying to insert here. So there's a lot of unstructured and structured data that retail companies across the globe get, like say a store visitor offline versus someone online. So there are companies working towards a lot of solutions, but I'm not sure about how they have been able to do. Interestingly, I also came across this news about how Nike acquired tech of a company called Select to actually work on this problem. And the solution apparently is predicting what a customer wants. And I found the idea hard. I mean, hard to actually imagine. I mean, so if you could just tell me a bit about how it works.
Yeah, so I will tell you more in general in terms of how exactly it works. So there is something called predictive analytics,
Of course.
where you are predicting the consumer trends, that how exactly the consumer demand would be going forward in future, maybe 6 months, 1 year down the line. And so fashion retail has a typical way of working. So usually if you are a fashion retail company, you will place your order like 6 months or 8 months in advance, in and then after 8 months or 10, maybe 6 months, then you go into the season, and then you, whatever you have made the prediction, whatever the orders you had booked, you want that it should be as accurate as possible in terms of that trend at that point of time. So as you can see that there is a huge risk involved, because what if you missed out on your prediction, because it is a mix of gut and data driven approach. So what the brands are trying these days, that they are trying to make it as data driven as possible, or whatever insight you get from the data, how you can make it more sharper. So this Nike acquisition was part of that approach, that how as a brand we can improve our predictive analytics. But then it's not just Nike, the overall retail is moving in that direction, and there will be a lot of infusion of these kind of predictive analytics features in the way the brand deal with their predict their consumer demand going forward. So yeah, that is one of the another integration of technology into the way how brands function. Yeah.
Got it. No, it's exciting. I mean, because for another retail company, I was looking at how even a 1% improvement could lead to such a huge impact on net profit. So, I mean, I get it how this is the need of
Yeah.
the hour, especially for an industry like this. Something similar. I mean, and this is something that I've been experiencing personally. We all have our favorite brands, right? I mean, say for shoes, for clothes, for mobiles, everything. And there's been so many there's been an infusion of fake products into the market across these categories. And there have been technologies, but how is, for example, the retail industry tackling it?
So fake products had been already always had been a challenge, and will be a challenge at least in couple of more years, because it's not that easy to predict. Because the biggest challenge which any one of the retail industry brand faces is the supply chain transparency. Because there are various points in supply chain where a product can get leaked to the producer of these counterfeit products, and then they can produce the similar looking product. Because the whole idea is like a similar, you need to have the access to the design, and you need to, maybe you can use the substandard product, but the design is the crucial part. So that it will only be leaked from the supply chain, and then that becomes a challenge for any of the brand, how to make sure that they are tracking the supply chain at each and every point. So that is one way to deal with it. So a lot of brands have now started using RFID, which is radio frequency identification.
Right.
So these tags are usually, you have those barcodes put on right from the beginning, and then each step your product is tracked, that from where exactly it's coming from, where what exactly happened to this product before this stage. So by the time it reaches to the end consumer can simply scan that QR code or the code over the product, and then they can know that from where exactly the product is coming from, and then is it a real product or a fake product. So it will take a lot of investment into the supply chain, because building that transparency in the supply chain is a big task, because that is quite intensive. But then I guess it will have a long term implication. A problem like this, we'll be able to resolve that, because if you are buying any of the product from any of the brand, you will be able to just scan the code, and then you know that the product is real. And then you would
Nice.
know, it will answer another question, which is the sustainability part. Because as a consumer now, I want to know that what exactly went through in the making of this product. So this also solved that problem.
Got it. Oh, that's pretty interesting actually. If the industry is actually moving towards these technologies and integrating tools which can help detect this, it'll actually be a game changer for all of us. I have one last question actually. It's more about how things have changed over the last few years, not just because of coronavirus, but also because of how we work. So functions used to be very different, right? Marketing jobs to
Yeah.
support sales, sales jobs to go out in the market, get customers on board. Business planning's team work is to, correct me if I'm wrong, wherever, is to plan for the
Yeah.
months and years to come. But we see now that everyone has to end up working together and know almost everything. So what do you think like can actually be done about that part?
So I'll be very honest with you because this is kind of a phase. So we can't assume anything what we are doing right now that going forward in future we'll be doing the same thing. Because so if the businesses will change, if the consumer behavior will change, the internal processes will also change. So something which is part of the business planning today might not be part of the business planning maybe 6 months down the line. The
Yeah.
same I can say with the marketing as well, like something which is part of the marketing right now, that marketing might change going forward in future. So that I feel that right now, this time is just to make sure that it's a time for this working on the survival, but then keeping an eye in the future that we as a company and as an individual, as a professional, we need to be very adaptable in terms of like the time has gone by where you could say that okay, like this is not part of my job. Like how can my company expect me to do this?
Yeah.
Because roles will be obsolete, new roles will come in, and you need to be open to learn new things and work in a new manner. So that would be a big change in the way we work, and then we need to be very agile and adaptable, I would say.
No, very interesting. In fact, I've thought on very similar lines most of the past few weeks specifically.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been very intriguing and very interesting on so many parts. Thank you so much for your time, Manish.
Yeah. You're most welcome, Shori. It was always a pleasure to talk to you and have such an amazing time. And thanks for such insightful. Sometimes you're just sitting in working and the whole day, and then you don't introspect that what exactly is happening around you. But these questions made me think. Okay, like yeah, we are going through a phase of transformation, and then guess like. To be honest, like integrating right technology and businesses is right now is the key. And then so I would say like at least for my industry, it's not retail is struggling, it's just that retail is transforming right now. Bad retail might be struggling, but the retail will come out much stronger from this pandemic. So good companies will always be there. So yeah.
Thanks for joining us this time on The Digital Couch. Make sure to visit our website, vfirst.com, where you can subscribe to the show on the platform of your choice. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, do write to us at thedigitalcouch@vfirst.com. Be sure to tune in to our next episode. See you.